You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I gotta start with a death that's really flown under the radar. This guy isn't a household name by any stretch, but he was a very, very good player in his day, and that is Gentle Ben Williams, who died yesterday at the age of 65. Big Buffalo Bills fans may remember the name, and they should, because he was one of their better defensive players in the late 70s, early 80s. And I'll get into that. But I want to start with his college career at Ole Miss. He enrolled there in 1971, and he made the team that year. Him, along with James Reed, became the first African American football players in the history of Ole Miss. Williams holds their all-time sacks record with 37 and their single-season sack record with 18. In 1976, he was drafted by the Bills in the third round, and it's really a shame that we don't have the stats that we have now. Like, for baseball, people have gone back and have retroactively applied saves and on-base percentage to people. Why can't we do that for football? I understand if you don't have the tape, it can't be done, but I'm sure we have those tapes. As such, I can only give you a little bit on Williams' early career. It took him a while to really get going. He started a lot early on. He played 147 games in his career. He started 140. The 7 games that he came off the bench, 6 of them were his rookie year, 1976. If you know anything about Bills history, you'll know that that 76 team was anemic. They went 2-12. Jim Ringo and Lou Saban were their coaches. Saban started the year, went 2-3, was replaced by Ringo, who went 0-9, and then the year after that, 77, went 3-11. Not too good. In 1980, Chuck Knox was in his third year with the Bills. He took over in 78, went 5-11. Year after that, 7-9. Year after that, 11-5. A steady climb. That's all you can ask for. In 1980, Bills made the playoffs, the first time in Ben Williams' career. And they went on to face the San Diego Chargers in the divisional round. Unfortunately for Williams, the Bills lost 20-14. The year after that, the Bills went back to the playoffs. They faced the Jets in the wild card game and absolutely destroyed them. Don't pay attention to the final score of that game, 31-27 Bills. the Bills stormed out to a 24-0 lead. To make matters worse, the first play, the opening kickoff, Bruce Harper fumbled it for the Jets. And Charles Romes for the Bills picked it up and ran it back 26 yards to give the Bills a 7-0 lead before either offense had come out on the field. A harbinger of things to come in that game. The Bills would then go on to lose to the Bengals 28-21 in the divisional round. Back and forth game. Ben Williams had a sack. Really, really good game. In 1982, sacks were first counted. While Williams only had 4 sacks, he made his only Pro Bowl. According to Pro Football Reference's approximate value stat, he had a 12, the highest value of his career. That's really, really good. For those of you who don't know what that stat is. Then in 83, he had 10 sacks. In 1985, Williams' last year, the Bills drafted his replacement. You may have heard of him. His name is Bruce Smith. Incredibly nice man. Instead of being jaded about it, Williams mentored Smith. Smith often spoke about how much of an influence Williams was on him. Again, Ben Williams isn't the most household of names, but he was a really good player in his day. Really nice guy. It's how he got the name Gentle Ben. May he rest in peace. Alright, I promised you yesterday that I was going to do the trifecta today. So, I'm going to get it started by recapping the Denver Broncos 2020 NFL Draft Class. Whatever nice thing you can say about their first round pick is correct. Jerry Jeudy was the best wide receiver in that draft. The fact that he slipped to 15 is absolutely insane. The Broncos needed a wide receiver to play alongside Courtland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy is a master of all trades. You've heard Jack of all trades? Well, now it's master of all trades. He had over 1,100 receiving yards last year. Fantastic production. His separation skills are off the charts. His big playability. Drew Lock is going to have a field day throwing it 40 yards downfield to either Sutton or Jeudy. Fantastic frame. Fantastic ball skills. The Broncos couldn't have done any better than picking Jerry Jeudy. Then they double-dipped at wide receiver by taking KJ Hamler. I wasn't crazy about that pick. First up, I really don't like it when teams double-dip at positions. I mean, keep in mind, you still have Deshaun Hamilton, who has some potential. Tim Patrick, Deontay Spencer. They had guys there who could have played in the slot. And to make matters worse, there were better wide receivers available at 46. Chase Claypool, Van Jefferson, Denzel Mims, Devin Duvernay, you can make the argument was better. Lynn Bowden, you can make the argument was better. I wasn't crazy about that pick. I like Hamler. I think Hamler's going to be a really good player in this league. I just don't think it was a great pick. That was a B- pick. He's another guy who's a great deep threat. Separation skills are insane. He played really well against Jeff Okuda. That means a lot to me. The thing that I don't like about him is his frame. He is incredibly short. 5'9", 178 pounds. I'm 5'9". I'm not tall enough to be a wide receiver. I understand that Hamler's going to be in the slot. It's not going to be as big a deal, but it limits his ceiling somewhat. There were better options that the Broncos could have picked from. In the third round, they picked Michael Ojemudia. I liked Ojemudia a lot coming out of Iowa. He was actually one of my sleepers. I had a fourth round grade on him. The fact that he went in the third round was stunning to me. I did not think he was worth that. I mean, look, the thing that I love about Ojemudia is his frame and his ball skills. 6'1", 200 pounds. He comes from a good family. His older brother played football at Michigan. He has really long arms, 32 inches. And when you watched him at Iowa, he jumped off the tape. Now, he's not very athletic, and his instincts leave something to be desired. But I thought Ojemudia would have been a steal for a team in day 3, not round 3. I like the player, but to take him that high, that's really, really tough to defend. I understand that they needed a corner, but they could have done a lot better than taking Ojemudia in the third round. Lloyd Cushenberry was one of the best centers in this draft. They give Drew Lock an offensive lineman. Cushenberry's a jack-of-all-trades, master of none, except when it comes to his awareness. His IQ is off the charts, but he's just good in pass blocking. He's good in run blocking. He's a tough player. He'll be able to start week 1. I like that. And he probably will start week 1, because the only other center on the Broncos depth chart is Patrick Morris. I don't know who that is. They also have Nico Falla, former Jet, for a little bit. I don't think he ever got in a regular season game for him. But trust me, you don't want him playing. That pick made a ton of sense. Garrett Bowles, Dalton Risner, Lloyd Cushenberry, Graham Glasgow, and Jawan James. That's an insane offensive line. The Broncos did a great job of giving Drew Lock weapons. But they didn't give their defense a lot of weapons. McTelvin Agam was one of the worst picks of this draft. ESPN didn't have him on their final big board. Again, they went up to 306. I had a 7th round grade on him. He's not strong. He's not good with his hands. His technique is terrible. I like his experience. He played well at the Shrine Bowl. And he is athletic. But I just don't think he has the physical strength to play on the defensive line. I don't need my defensive linemen to be great athletes. I need them to be really, really strong. That was a really bad pick. I'm pretty sure I killed it the Monday after the draft. If I didn't, I'm killing it now. I don't see him being a big contributor for the Broncos in the future. The fact that Alberto Okwuegbunam slipped to 118th overall is insane to me. I had him as the 61st best prospect in this draft. ESPN had him as the 97th best prospect. So, I was higher on him. I get that. But this guy has an incredible frame, really, really good receiver. Him and Drew Lock clicked at Missouri. That's why this pick was made. Because Lock and Okwuegbunam have great chemistry. That's undeniable. But the thing is, last year, the Broncos picked Noah Fant in the first round. They signed Nick Vanett. They still have Jeff Heuerman. They still have Troy Fumagalli. Where's Okwuegbunam getting the reps? It's possible that they give him a year to marinate. He only had 26 catches last year. He was hurt. No question. There's no question that the seasoning could help him, but it's going to be tough for him to get the reps he needs to get better. At the end of the day, sitting and watching can only do so much. You gotta play to get better. Make mistakes and then learn from them. That's the best way to learn. Justin Strnad was a great pick. Filled a huge need for the Broncos at linebacker. I was higher on him than most. I had a 4th round grade on him. The Broncos took him in the 5th round, in the compensatory part of the 5th round, no less. Strnad really doesn't do anything great. From what I've heard, he's a good kid. He just does everything okay. Okay production, okay frame. I'd like him to put on more muscle. He's under 240 pounds. He's a smart kid, I know that. You watch him play, he makes good decisions. Good against the run, good tackler. He can play 3 downs. That was worth the pick. Justin Strnad made a ton of sense, and the Broncos really needed to add another linebacker. Netane Moody was an absolute steal. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a contributor for the Broncos for a long time. This guy would have been taken so much higher if he didn't have a Lisfranc injury last year. That was the biggest knock on him. That sent him tumbling down boards. He didn't have the tape necessary to show teams. But the little tape he had, you saw the talent. He's one of the best run blockers in this draft. He's incredibly strong. He killed the combine. Good in pass blocking, smart guy. I think Moody can contribute for a really, really long time. The Broncos made 2 of the last 4 picks of the draft. I'll go through them really, really quickly. Tyree Cleveland, I didn't like. They already drafted 2 wide receivers. Why did they need a 3rd one? And Derek Tuszka was a nobody. I mean, North Dakota State, he's not going to contribute. He's not Carson Wentz. All in all, I like what the Broncos did. I don't love it. Some people are giving this draft an A+. I'm not there. I'm going to give it a B+. That's still a really good grade. Same grade I gave the Jets. But it's not an A. It's a B+. Alright, it's time for this day in sports history. On this day, in 1928, Dolph Schayes was born. No, I'm not going to talk about the Oilers beating the Islanders in 5 games for Wayne Gretzky's first Stanley Cup. That is not going to happen. I'm going to talk about Dolph Schayes. It's okay if you don't know the name. He played a really long time ago, obviously, but the simple fact is Dolph Schayes is one of the best basketball players in history. I didn't realize this until I looked it up. Schayes could have been a New York Knick, but the Syracuse Nationals, who acquired his rights, offered him 1.5 times more than the Knicks were offering him. Schayes was picked in 1948 in the BAA draft, the Basketball Association of America. That's where the Knicks started out. He was also picked by the Tri-Cities Blackhawks in the National Basketball League's draft. So there was a war between the two leagues who was going to get who. It was like the NFL and the AFL, or the NHL and the WHA. Schayes ultimately went to the Syracuse Nationals. He played 1 season in the NBL and was named Rookie of the Year. The year after, the merger happened and the NBA was formed. Schayes didn't miss a beat. Averaged just under 17 points a game and averaged 4 assists per game. A career high. Whenever he stepped on the floor, you expected him to get a double-double. Rebounds were first tracked in the 1950-51 season. That year, Schayes averaged just under 16.5 rebounds per game. Then in the playoffs that year, he averaged just over 14.5 rebounds per game. I mean, every game he was a double-double threat. He was really tall, and that helped him to shoot over the shorter players. Back then, the league was comprised a lot of shorter players. You think about the great players of that era, the Jim Pollards, the Vern Mickelsons, the Bob Cousy's. They were all short. So a 6'7" guy, or a 6'8" guy, the sources vary, could dominate. And that's what Schayes did. He had a fantastic jump shot. If you went up to contest it, he'd drive right past you. He shot with both hands. I mean, he was insane. He could score in so many different ways. I'm struggling to come up with a modern comparison to him. I mean, all you have to do is look at Basketball Reference and see how dominant he was. He has a lot of bold type, made 12 All-Star games, 12-time All-NBA, was one of the first elite players in NBA history. In 1955, the Syracuse Nationals made the NBA Finals for the 3rd time ever. They had gone 0-2 up to that point. Schayes' rookie year, they lost to the Minneapolis Lakers, and in 1954, they also lost to the Lakers in 7 games. In 55, they wouldn't get their revenge on the Lakers. They'd have to go through the Fort Wayne Pistons. A team without any household names, but really good players. George Yardley, Larry Faust, Mel Hutchins, Max Zaslavsky, Frankie Bryan, Andy Phillip, all really good players. The series went 7 games, but Shays won his first and only NBA title by 1 point. In that Game 7, Shays had 13 points. He was perfect from the field, only had 4 shots, but still, made them all. They all counted. Only a 1-point win. And was 5 for 6 from the charity stripe. That year, Shays led the NBA when you talk about playoffs solely in rebounds per game, field goals made, field goals attempted, free throws made, free throws attempted. Again, his drives were insane. Total rebounds and points. He spent a year in Philadelphia when they became the 76ers as a player coach. So he is the answer to the question, who's the first coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, if you're not counting the Syracuse Nationals. They made the playoffs that year, were eliminated in 5 games. After that, Shays retired from playing, spent a couple more years as their coach. They made the playoffs in 64-65, finished with a .500 record, but lost in 7 games to the Celtics in the Eastern Division Finals. The Celtics would then go on to beat the Lakers in the NBA Finals. And the year after that, 65-66, Shays had 55 wins, but they were upset in 5 games by the Celtics. That year, Shays won Coach of the Year. He was selected as one of the 50 best players in NBA history in 1996. It's hard to argue with that. At the time, that was probably correct. I don't have him there right now. I have him at 80. He's a Hall of Famer, made the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame, the U.S. Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. He's the best Jewish player in basketball history. No question about that. So the next time someone tells you there have been no good Jews that ever played basketball, Dolph Shays. And I've had that conversation before. I am Jewish. I have had that conversation. Dolph Shays was one of the best players of his era. Without question, one of the best players in NBA history, and deserves to be remembered as such. Alright, it's time for another Mount Rushmore. We're on the Tampa Bay Rays now. We're nearing the end of baseball. So you may be thinking to yourself, Jacob, what are you going to do when you're all out of baseball teams? Well, I'm just going to go to hockey. Pretty easy. Obviously the Rays have been around for a short time. Not a lot of history there. They've only made it past the ALDS once, and that was 2008 when they lost the World Series in 5 games to the Phillies. My best friend Mark is a Rays fan, so I'll be interested to find out if he agrees with this list. For my money, the correct Mount Rushmore is Evan Longoria, David Price, Carl Crawford, and James Shields. I feel like you don't need me to tell you how great those guys were. I mean, Longoria was a perennial MVP threat. He never won it. But in his prime, he was an MVP threat. I remember the rumors of Longoria coming to the Yankees in a super trade. I don't remember what the package was, but there was always that speculation among Yankees fans. The Rays couldn't afford him. The Yankees needed a third baseman because, A-Rod can't play third anymore, so let's go. Let's get Longoria. Obviously, it never happened. Although it would have been nice. David Price, when he was with the Rays, was absolutely fantastic. Won a Cy Young in 2012, in 2010, the year that King Felix stole the Cy Young Award from CC Sabathia. Price finished second. The order should have been Sabathia, Price, Hernandez. So, no argument with Price finishing second. Just an argument with who ended up winning it. Was insanely dominant in the regular season, just couldn't get it done when it counted in the playoffs. The big black mark on his legacy. And I don't want to hear 2018, alright? 2018 doesn't wipe out all those bad starts. He's got to do it again, and again, and again, and again. Carl Crawford was a really fun player to watch, incredibly fast, really Maury Wills-like, led the league in triples 4 times, led the league in steals 4 times, really fun to watch. And James Shields is the Rays' all-time leader in wins and strikeouts by a pitcher. Had to include him on this list, even though he only made one All-Star team for the Rays in 2011. Alright, Mark, I'd love to know what you think of this list. Text me when you hear it. And you can tweet at me, at RealJacobValk, if you agree or disagree with it. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that if I could change places with anyone for a day, it would be my father, so I could see how wonderful it is to live with me.